evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I am Bryson Carver. Now, today's show, I must go and say in the out front, is not officially live. So as I always say when it's a pre-recorded show, if there's anything big or crazy that's happened in the world of sports, I'm aware of it, just not the time that you're watching me. We got a great show on tap for you guys tonight. In 12 minutes, or really more like 10 minutes, the Jets making a big-time play-calling change, moving on from Nathaniel Hackett, moving to Todd Downing. What I think that means for the Jets moving forward, spoiler alert, it means nothing that in terms of their offense getting better. The Vol view after that, about 10 minutes after that, Tennessee, Florida are hated. And I do mean most hated rival. Cannot emphasize that enough. Big time game for Tennessee, big bounce back opportunity after the disappointing loss to Arkansas. Get into that. And of course, at the end of today's show, it is a Friday. So we got Bryson's Bleak bet. We've got my upset of the week. And we got a big upset of the week this week. I've got a winning record in that department, so I feel good about it. And our 3 games for If I Were a Bettin Man, my favorite segment of the week, 2-1 a week ago in terms of if I were a Bettin Man. So I'm feeling good moving forward. So let's get to business. But first, San Francisco needed that last night. So they beat Seattle 36-24 in Seattle. I did pick the Niners to win this game. Thought it'd be a little bit closer. I had Niners by 6, but I did think they'd cover. I think they were favored by 5. Did think they'd cover the 5 points. Thought Purdy would play better. I'd listed the stat, the fact that he had been undefeated prior to last night, and obviously still undefeated in his career against the Seattle Seahawks, but also he'd struggled in his career against Mike McDonald, the 4 picks that he threw on Christmas Day when McDonald was the DC of the Baltimore Ravens. Purdy didn't have any troubles last night. He went 18 for 28, 255, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. QBR on a 0 to 100 scale of a 90, which is tremendous, and a pass rating of 129.3, which is pretty fantastic as well. Also, San Francisco, and this to me is what I really want to focus on. 33 carries, 228 yards, basically average 7 yards a carry. That's San Francisco. Now, Ian Rappaport said before the game, or reported before the game at least, that Christian McCaffrey is looking to be back as soon as maybe the middle of next month. So San Francisco right now, they're 3-3. They've got Kansas City a week from now. They've got extra time to prepare, but so do the Chiefs coming off of the bye. Then they've got Dallas, who they've owned. So San Francisco has kind of they're going to have a tough schedule because they're the first place team. They got Tampa Bay, Seattle again, then they got Green Bay, and then Buffalo. I mean, this is kind of a gauntlet for San Francisco. If they lost this game, fell to 2-4, I don't think I'd come on the show and say they're done, because I just believe too much in Kyle Shanahan. I believe too much in their organizational stability. And frankly, I believe too much in their roster, despite some of the injuries, to sell stock in them in October. I would not do that. But it would have been a crushing blow. To lose to a Seahawks team, and I'll get to Seattle briefly after finish my Niners take, with a Geno Smith who's a pretty good starter, and that's about it. A rookie coach in Mike McDonald on a short week. What did I say about Thursday Night Football on Wednesday's show when I was predicting this game? Is that short weeks tend to favor the better coach, or at the very least the more experienced coach. Like, I don't think Robert Saleh, who just got fired this week, is a significantly better coach than Jerome Mayo. Actually, kind of like Jerome Mayo. As a Tennessee guy, go Vols. But he's more experienced. He was in, at that point, year 4 or year 3.15. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The more experienced coach tends to do better on Thursday Night Football. Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDonald, for as smart defensively as McDonald is, new head coach, and Seattle's hasn't been very good defensively in the last 3 weeks in this 3-game losing streak, which this was, well, I'll get to Seattle in a minute. Focusing on the Niners, though. Jordan Mason, who suffered an injury, recent reports say it looks like he's going to be fine. I don't know if anything's broken by the time. I'm recording the show at noon Eastern time. It airs at 6 Eastern. I don't know if there's any sort of news that have broken as of late, but it looks like he's going to be okay in the long run. Okay, Kyle Juszczyk doing his thing. George Kittle. I will say, Brock Purdy, and I was critical of Purdy on Monday. I'm getting a lot of pushback from Niners fans on YouTube. It's very hurtful. But no, listen, I don't necessarily trust Purdy when playing from behind. But when Purdy's got it rolling, when Purdy's, seeing the field well, which he clearly was all of last night, that dime he threw to George Kittle on the back right corner in the end zone was a great catch by Kittle, great route, getting the leverage on the smaller DB. The throw by Purdy was darn near perfect. So, kudos to him. And again, for San Francisco, you like to see a little bit better of a performance from them in terms of, defensively. Special teams, to me, is the concern for Kyle Shanahan, the Niners team, when you consider the fact that they should have beaten the Rams in week 3. A beat-up Rams team that's their only single solitary win thus far through week 5, going into week 6, obviously, is that, man, it's special teams cost them at the end of that game, despite a great performance from Brock Purdy and from my man, Jawan Jennings. Go Vols. That's got to get fixed if it ever will. Special teams has kind of been a little bit of a bugaboo for Kyle Shanahan, for Matt LaFleur. Some of these guys that are really offense-driven, and that's great, and they put together really talented defenses, especially the Niners, at least over the Packers over the years. But, man, I mean, in a league with great kickers everywhere, I mean, guys are hitting 50-yard field goals like it's an extra point. It's unbelievable. I mean, Brandon Aubrey and Dallas, they're saying, hey, he can hit a 70-yarder in a game. I mean, it's unbelievable what these kickers are doing nowadays. And you've got Green Bay, who doesn't have a very good kicker, and you've got the Niners, who Moody was kind of iffy at times a year ago, and then this year, now he's hurt. We'll see how long he's out. The replacement kicker, I believe, went perfect on all his kicks last night, so that's good news for San Francisco. But that was impressive. This is how the Niners need to win games. I'm not saying that they're a team like, I don't know, like my Pittsburgh Steelers, for example. They're far better than Pittsburgh. Like in the sense that the Steelers got to hold teams under 20. They can't turn the ball over. But if they do those things, Mike Tomlin, great situational coach, they'll win at the end. Like Pittsburgh has like a single tunnel vision way to win football games. Trust me, I'm a Steelers fan. I know. That's what cost us against Dallas last week and to a certain degree against the Colts the week prior. That's not San Francisco. I don't necessarily think what Kyle Shanahan has shown, and I love Shanahan, and certainly what Purdy's shown, they're not that great playing from behind. But when they've got a lead, last week notwithstanding against the Cardinals, they're a different monster. And Seattle kind of made that close. There was never a point in that game like, oh my God, Seattle's going to win this thing. There was never a point where I'm like, oh, they're going to, not really. I really never felt that way in the fourth quarter. Yeah, Geno had that, had the ball through the interception when Seattle was down 6. Somehow, some way, I felt like the Niners were going to make a play defensively. They were kind of waiting on it, and we're to close the game out with the running game. And that's exactly what they did. But punch you in the mouth, reestablish that classic 49ers brand of football. Great pass rush. I mean, Nick Bosa. There were times Nick Bosa was coming off the edge unblocked. I'm like, that's the last dude you leave. If anything else, you double team the guy. Nick Bosa was great. The Niners got consistent pressure on Geno Smith. Again, offensively, I think their own line, San Francisco's own line, quietly, and Pro Football Focus's grades have adjusted accordingly. I think it's actually been pretty good over the last few weeks. We know how great Trent Williams is. He's one of the greatest players in the history of his position. I've called him the Shaq of the NFL. Like, you can't do anything to stop him or get around him at the very least. Get pressure on your quarterback. I think the rest of that Niners O-line, particularly in the interior, their centers played excellent football recently. Created the big block that freed up the young back. What was the kid's name? Gurindo. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. And then obviously Juszczyk with the very clever, classic Kyle Shanahan play call, kind of finished it off at the end. So that's Niners football. Opportunistic defense, get to the quarterback, punch you in the mouth, establish the run game. Purdy plays efficient football. I mean, that's like, if every Niners game looks like that, if they play exactly like that, that'd be darn near impossible to beat. It's the NFL. That's not always going to be the case, but very impressed by what I saw from San Francisco. For Seattle, though, briefly, again, Mike McDonald, young coach, he's got to establish what he wants to do and what he wants the culture to be in Seattle. But they've got to get a new quarterback next offseason. Now, I thought they should have went after quarterback this past draft. I thought a Michael Penix Jr., who you guys know I said before this past draft, Caleb Williams is going to be the best prospect, bar none. He's going to live up to all the hype. Michael Penix Jr. will be the second best guy, followed by Jaden Daniels. Like, I thought those would be the 3 guys. And by the way, Bo Nix with Sean Payton specifically, I think can work. I just don't think he has the upside of those guys. Penix would have been a great fit in Seattle. That ship looks like it's sailed. I really like a lot of the talent, particularly the offensive side of the ball for the Seahawks. Kenneth Walker, I think he'd be a good back long term. Again, 14 carries for 32 yards. Not great. But when the San Francisco 49ers are keyed in on stopping him, it's going to kind of limit what you can do. I've said for about a year, they might have the best or second best trio of wide receivers in the NFL. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who I thought had a pretty productive night, got open pretty consistently. Did have the fumble, but I thought was pretty solid. Geno missed some layups last night. Now, Geno tends to be a pretty accurate quarterback. Geno, it tends to be a pretty efficient quarterback. He led the league in passer rating and is kind of his big, you remember they wrote me off, I didn't write back, season 2022, the Seahawks make the playoffs. Like that tends to be who Geno is. But efficiency, it's great. I am big on that. That's kind of my major criticism for as great as Josh Allen is. Efficiency goes out the window with that guy. Now, he gives you incredible upside in terms of his playmaking abilities, which is why I take him, in a landslide over Geno Smith. That can only get you so far. I don't trust, you guys don't think I trust Purdy playing from behind? I trust him more than Geno. I mean, when that game got a little dicey and it was 23-3 again, I guess Seattle made that comeback. A lot of that was spurred by the kick return. Let's be honest. If that thing doesn't go 90-plus yards to the house, Seattle probably gets blown out. They maybe put together a scoring drive that means nothing in the fourth quarter and the score's 36-13 or something. They lose the game badly, going away. And so there needs to be a quarterback change in Seattle. And again, this is something I said about the Seahawks coming into the season, that I feel like they were about an 8-win team, 9-win team. They were kind of a trendy playoff pick by some, and I understood that. My thing was I said Seattle would fool people at the gates because of the quarterbacks they were playing. Bo Nix in week 1. Okay, and again, I like Bo Nix with Sean Payton. Rookie quarterbacks in their first start historically are awful. Bo Nix in week 1 at home, Jacoby Brissett week 2, and then whoever the heck Miami threw out in week 3. I think it was the kid that started the playoff game a couple of years ago for them, and then Tim Boyle came in briefly. Like, come on. Now if they face Jared Goff, Daniel Jones isn't as good as Jared Goff. He's productive enough. And Brock Purdy, I mean, I don't consider any of these guys to be like the cream of the crop of the NFL, and they've gotten torched. So who does Seattle have next week? Seattle's now obviously fallen to 3-3, tied with San Francisco. They've got the Atlanta Falcons in 10 days, and we know Atlanta tends to be great in close games and have a very explosive offense. So that could be a problem for Seattle. Maybe extra time to prepare. We'll see. But Seattle kind of is what I thought they'd be, and so are the Niners. I didn't think the Niners would be 3-3 at this point in the season. I thought they'd be a little bit better, but that's San Francisco 49ers football at its peak. So again, today's show not live. We pre-recorded this. It's about 12 o'clock a.m. or p.m. Eastern time. So this show's going to air about 6 hours after I record it. So again, anything happens in the world of sports, I'm aware, just not the time that you're watching me. Before we go to break and get to the ball view, I did want to discuss, the New York Jets, and I have all week. It's been a pretty chaotic last 5 days for the New York Jets. So they lose on Sunday to the Vikings with Aaron Rodgers throwing not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions. They then fire Robert Saleh on Tuesday after Aaron Rodgers and Woody Johnson had a phone conversation that absolutely, of course, had nothing to do with Saleh. And then on Thursday, new head coach Ulrich decides to make Jeff Ulrich, the defensive coordinator, decides to make Todd Downing the new offensive play caller. So basically, it'd be like if you worked somewhere and you were like maybe you weren't say you were like a CEO, and then you got demoted to like basically a guy just who sits in the meetings. It's like you don't have the power anymore, but you're still there. You still show up to work. You still have the same relationships with people. You basically got fired. You just get to show up to work and get paid still. That's essentially what happened with Nathaniel Hackett. So, again, this to me, it just signifies just the Jets, the oddness of the Jets. And folks might, who saw my video and my carving up the context on Wednesday, where I basically said, okay, it was reported that Robert Saleh was strongly thinking about moving off Nathaniel Hackett, and then boom, out of nowhere, Robert Saleh's gone. And my thing was, if Aaron got wind of this, I'd say probably put a bug in Woody Johnson's ear, and folks are like, well, he doesn't call plays anymore. You know, if there's one thing that I've learned, not only watching sports, but especially, I hesitate to say this because I think it's a disrespect to those that actually do this for a living, but I would say I am somewhat of a minor presidential historian. Like, I literally did a podcast series on this channel with a good buddy of mine. Shout out Isaac Lawson. We talked about all 46 presidents. We did this a couple of years ago, and then we ranked them at the end. The playlist for that podcast is on the YouTube channel. You can check it out if you so please. The one thing that I've learned in observing presidential history, observing politics, is you can't get anything done without compromise. If both sides want a shared goal, or maybe not a shared goal, but they want something and the other person has to give a little bit, if both sides are willing to come to the table and get it done, it can get done. I mean, plenty of good and bad compromises throughout political history. Both sides had to give a little. We see that now. Neither side, it seems like these days, will give anything on a majority of issues. So it's like this Congress is a disaster. Another story for another podcast. I could very well see Aaron Rodgers getting wind that maybe Saleh wanted to move off Nathaniel Hackett and bring it to Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson's like, listen, Hackett isn't, he wouldn't say this to Aaron, but in other words, Hackett isn't very good, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that, but I also don't necessarily buy into Saleh. And I could see Aaron going, well, I don't really either, and so I could see a compromise. To appease Aaron, they move off Saleh. To appease Woody Johnson, they demote Nathaniel Hackett. I can absolutely see that. So to me, when folks are like, well, this means that Aaron doesn't have as much control. Oh, no. It might not be quite as black and white as we initially thought, but Hackett's still in the building. Like he was in the building in Green Bay. He was the offensive coordinator. LaFleur called plays. I mean, Aaron Rodgers said, the Broncos had to throw up in their mouth when they saw this. But remember, the Broncos hired Hackett to be their head coach. And then Aaron comes back and they said, what do you think about Hackett? He's like, yeah, I like throwing darts with him in the quarterback room. That's your ringing endorsement? Like that's fine if you're buddies with the guy. Nothing wrong with that. But I was kind of hoping we get something a little bit more substantive in terms of, is he going to be the guy who takes us to the next level? And of course, it ended up being a complete disaster. And so, but there's something else I was thinking about, though, with Aaron Rodgers. Because do I think because Todd Downing has not been a successful OC in his career, his record would show you that. But if there's one thing that folks are hoping, or Jets fans are hoping, hey, he can turn around our offense. I've said for a long time on this show, listen, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been good in 3 years. He certainly hasn't been good this year. We could show you, I think we have those. Yeah, we could show you those numbers. He's 19th in pass yards per game, 18th in touchdown interception ratio, 26th in completion, 29th in yards per pass, 26th in passer rating, 21st in QBR, and 25th in team points per game. And we've given the stat a million times about how this year's Jets offense is basically identical to last year's Jets offense at this point in the season with Zach freaking Wilson. One of the things I've said, though, about Aaron Rodgers not being good is that the last time he threw for 300 yards was week 14 of the 2021 season. It has been almost 3 years since the great Aaron Rodgers passed for 300 yards. So I figured we put together a little demonstration about how bad that is. Aaron Rodgers not throwing for 300 yards. Let's roll the clip. Let's roll the tape of the guys who have, in that span, thrown for 300 yards more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Let's go and roll the footage, okay? Let's see what we got. Andy Dalton's done it. Bailey Zappi. Okay, you got Bailey Zappi. Baker, of course, has done it. There you go. Brock Purdy. So very familiar names. Bryce Young's done it more recently than Aaron. CJ Stroud, of course. Who do we got? Caleb has done it this year. Carson Wentz has thrown for 300 more recently than Aaron. Of course, Dak Prescott has. Daniel Jones has. That's Davis Mills. Derek Carr's done it more recently. That's Desmond Ritter's done it more recently. Gardner Minshew. Geno Smith has done it. Jacoby Brissett's thrown for 300 yards more recently than Aaron. So is Jake Browning and Jalen Hurts and Jameis Winston. Who else we got? We got Jared Goff on the mix. We got Jarrett Stidham's done it more recently than Aaron. Jimmy Garoppolo, Joe Burrow. Who else we got? Joe Flacco. Old man Flacco's done it more recently. His understudy, Jordan Love, has done it. Josh Allen. That's not PJ Walker. It's Josh Johnson. Justin Fields. Justin Herbert. Who else has done it? Kenny Pickett did it more recently than Aaron. Kirk Cousins. Kyler Murray. Lamar Jackson. This is an unbelievable list, folks. Mac Jones has done it more recently than Aaron. Matt Ryan, who's retired. Matt Stafford, who's getting older. Mike White. Nick Mullins. Backups, guys. PJ Walker, the third string in Seattle. Obviously, Mahomes has done it. Russell Wilson's done it. Ryan Tannehill, who's not on a team, has done it. Sam Darnold has done it. Sam Howell has done it. Teddy Bridgewater, who's retired, has done it. Tom Brady, who hasn't played in 2 years, has done it. Trevor Lawrence, 300 yards more recently than Aaron. So is Tua Tagovailoa and his backup Tyrod Taylor. Will Levis has done it. And Zach Wilson has thrown for 300 yards more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Does that paint enough of a picture? Like, you can change offensive coordinators all you want, and having Nathaniel Hackett in obviously hurt Aaron. He brought him in, but it obviously hurt Aaron. It hurt the offense. I don't think Todd Downey's going to be much better. His history throughout his career would show you that. But I think the thing that so many, and I've tried to get this point across, and I think I'm slowly starting to, is the thing that so many Jets fans and Aaron Rodgers fans refuse to acknowledge. He's not good anymore. He's not good anymore. I mean, do we have okay, so we showed you his stats this year. Those are not very good. How about his stats? His last fully healthy season prior to the Achilles tear in Green Bay. 19th in pass yards per game, 15th in touchdown interception ratio, 20th in completion percentage, 23rd in yards per pass, and 16th in pass rating. That was 2 years ago with a better Packers team, better coach, better weapons, weaker division. Before an Achilles tear, he wasn't 40 yet. I'm truly, listen, I get it. He throws a pretty football. Aaron Rodgers will be able to throw a pretty football when he's freaking 70 years old. I guarantee it. I'm sure 30 years from now, but Aaron will be on TV or on some, I don't know, ayahuasca retreat or something, or into the deserts of Egypt, just spinning that pup. It's a beautiful thing to watch Aaron Rodgers throw a pigskin. It's beautiful. But we have to judge him based on what he's been for a very long time. We showed you the quarterbacks. I mean, there are third stringers in the NFL who have thrown for 300 yards more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Guys Tom Brady has done it. Tom Brady has not played in almost 2 years because he's retired. He's up with Kevin Burkhardt doing games on Fox. Matt Ryan's broadcasting with CBS. Teddy Bridgewater is coaching high school football. Ryan Tannehill is not employed. I think it's so often we ignore. What was it? Who said it? Listen, I'm not like the crazy biggest fan of Ben Shapiro or anything, but didn't he say facts don't care about your feelings? Yeah, it's on its face, it's a true statement. Like, Aaron Rodgers has not been good in a very, very long time, and we've got to adjust to that. Listen, I don't think the Jets are that good at anyway. The defense is better than maybe I gave it credit for last season, but Garrett Wilson, I don't think he's had. I mean, up until week 5, had he had 70 yards receiving. Breece Hall's done nothing. Allen Lazard. I mean, you can bring in Devontae Adams. Sure, it'll make you a little better. This is not a playoff team. This has 7-10 written all over it. Anyways, I mean, when I was putting that thing together, I could not believe some of the names I saw on that list. Quarterbacks who have thrown for 300 yards more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Guys that are out of the league, guys that are backups, guys that we all are like Mac Jones, for example. I was on the Mac Jones is bad train before he was in the NFL, for crying out loud. Like, Mac Jones is a bad player. There are guys on there that I'm like, Will Levis is a bad quarterback. Thrown for 300 more recently than a guy people are still trying to convince me is still good. Is he an all-time legend? Oh, there's no effing question about it. I've criticized his leadership and his playoff resume, but the guy, I cannot question the guy's gifts, abilities, and accomplishments individually in terms of the MVPs and all that. Judge him what he is now. So there you go. Be back in a minute on Carving Up Live to do the Vol View. So Carving Up Live back in just a minute. Welcome back to Carving It Up. So again, we are not live today. This is a pre-recorded show, but it is airing obviously at our normal time at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. Before we get to the Volview, I just wanted to bring this up for a half second because I'm getting flack from some of my good friends who are Yankees fans and saying like, "Hey, Bryson, you picked the Royals, you hater." Listen, congratulations. I was wrong. I will always stand out in front of it when I'm incorrect on something. With that said, Aaron Judge is still not very good in the playoffs. You guys still can't score runs against a Royals team that is not as good in terms of rotation or their bullpen as either the Guardians or the Tigers. So y'all will lose. And the Mets, and again, I've said this for a long time, the last couple of weeks, I guess, that the Mets will go on a deeper playoff run than the Yankees. Playoff baseball is about pitching and vibes. Mets pitching, don't totally trust it in the long run. Vibes, 20 out of 10. It's fantastic. As long as I got Lindor doing his thing, hitting. Every time it looks like the Mets are dead in the water. This guy, the game 161 against the Braves, game 4 against Phillies with the unbelievable grand slam at Citi Field. Listen, as a Red Sox fan, and I know a lot of Mets fans out there, love y'all. We all hate the Yankees together. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I may buy a Mets hat before it's all said and done. That will feel a little bit sacrilegious. I'll probably hold off on that purchase because I am still a Red Sox fan at the end of the day, but I'm pulling hard for the New York Mets. All right. Big game for Tennessee on Saturday, tomorrow night, under the lights in beautiful Neyland Stadium and even more beautiful Knoxville, Tennessee. The Vols taking on them gosh darn Florida Gators. Cannot wait to talk about it. The Volview begins right now.
In Tennessee.
Is it ever a revenge spot for the Tennessee Vols as they come back home to Neyland Stadium for the first time in basically a month to take on the Florida Gators? I did want to say this in the outset, and I mean this, honest to God, I mean this genuinely. I'm very hard on Florida fans, like I am on Yankees fans, Alabama fans, Cleveland fans, all of the above. With that said, I will not be as hard today because Florida has went through absolute hell this week and really the last couple of weeks with the back-to-back hurricanes. So my thoughts and prayers, I mean this genuinely, thoughts and prayers to everybody in that state that has dealt with the devastation of this recent storm. We're thinking of you. We're praying for you. If there's anybody out there, we did a fundraiser for the show or during the show after the hurricane came through this area in the southeast, close to where I live. Did a fundraiser for that. Again, I implore you, World Central Kitchen, Convoy of Hope, American Red Cross. These are all three fantastic organizations. Please donate to them to help all the victims of this hurricane because they need as much help as they can get. So I did want to say that in the out front. I love my Vols. Gators fans may get on my nerves, but listen, there's a lot of Florida Gators fans that are really going through it right now. So thoughts and prayers with everybody out there. Now for this game. So Tennessee comes in after a devastating loss to the Arkansas Razorbacks on the road, 19-14. I said at the very least come into the game, and let's just say I've gotten trolled a little bit, rightfully so, I might add, for saying, hey, Tennessee's got a path after they beat Alabama to beat Arkansas, Florida, then beat Alabama at home to maybe be the number one team in the country. Even if we beat Florida, Alabama, we're not going to be number one. We'll be good in position, but not the best team in the country. But with that said, Tennessee favored in this game. Minus 14.5. The line actually opened a week ago prior to Tennessee, Arkansas at Tennessee minus 20. SEC matchup. Teams get favored by 20 points. And what's been a rivalry that has been absolutely and completely dominated by the Florida Gators from 2005 to 2023. We have won. We as in the Tennessee Volunteers have won twice. But the good news is both of those have been at home. This game's at home. Graham Mertz is Florida's starting quarterback. He's been benched, put back in. I mean, it has been a revolving, or I should say revolving door, but a seesaw back and forth of starting quarterbacks for Florida. Billy Napier is not a good head coach. He's going to lose his job at the end of the year. I can never remember a time in my life where coming into a season, and Florida's been about what we thought they'd be this year, where a Florida team is picked universally. Oh yeah, they're like bottom 4 in the SEC. Like they're going to finish, like in 12th. I mean, they're never thought I'd see the day. I can't say I'm mad about it, but never thought I'd see the day. So Tennessee's in a spot where after that game against Arkansas, my main takeaway was let Nico loose. Let Nico loose. Their starting quarterback. Brew McCoy got hurt. Looks like he's going to be back. You still got the running game with Dylan Sampson. You still got an elite offensive line. You still got a defense that's led by James Pierce, by Jeremy McCoy, the corner, who I think is going to have a big-time game on Saturday. And if nothing else for Tennessee, you fall down to 8th, and there are Vols fans. I've talked to some fellow Vols fans that are a little bit nervous, a little bit panicky, like, gosh, is our college football playoff hopes in jeopardy? Are we in trouble? Tennessee hears all the noise. The good news is for Tennessee, again, they didn't even have the worst loss in the SEC. That was Alabama against Vanderbilt. They lost a game they shouldn't have. At the very least, I feel like for Tennessee this year, we can go 10-2. We can maybe split with an Alabama, Georgia, and we are basically guaranteed a spot in the 12-team college football playoff. With a game they shouldn't have lost, that's out of the way now. Like that they've already blown that, and we haven't even gotten to November yet. I think Tennessee, especially with that home crowd, Tennessee, Florida, the energy and the atmosphere that brings is going to play with their effing hair on fire. So Tennessee against Florida will win this game decisively, 45-17 over the Gators. Listen, again, Florida got the win over UCF. UCF might not be quite as good as we thought because Colorado smoked them. Florida got the W against them. Listen, Florida may feel good about themselves. That's okay. They won last weekend and we didn't. Tennessee is going to come into Neyland Stadium and absolutely drop the effing hammer on the Gators offensively. Iyama Liaba will throw for 400 yards. We'll throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Dylan Sampson will do his thing in the run game. I'm going to say Scroll White catches 2 of those touchdowns, one of them being a deep ball. Could be Thornton. Could be Brazel. Could be any of those guys. Tennessee is loaded at the wide receiver position. But what I want to see more than anything from Josh Heupel, my man, I love me some Josh Heupel. The man has saved the program along with Danny White, obviously the athletic director. The play calling, and again, it feels like I saw a tweet from a Tennessee fan saying, like, that's always like the redneck excuse to go to is play calling. And I do agree with that in like 95% of the time. In this instance, I do kind of agree it was the play calling because I feel like it feels as if Josh Heupel's still calling games like Joe Milton's the quarterback. And respect Joe Milton, obviously, with the Patriots now. Cannon arm, great kid. Love everything about him in terms of his intangibles. But he didn't see the field that very well. He wasn't very good in the pocket. He overshot. Again, he had the monster arm. He overshot a lot of his receivers. Didn't make necessarily the best decisions all the time. And so Josh Heupel, who really opened it up with Hendon Hooker in 2022, kind of shortened the playbook, simplified it. I don't want to see that with Nico. Nico's got the ability. We saw the play where he hit Thornton with the long ball to get them in position to where they could have won the game with a touchdown. Nico making plays, rolling out of the pocket. Let Nico loose. Let Nico cook. And I think that's what the Tennessee Volunteers are going to do. So once again, against Florida, Tennessee covers easily 45-17 over those gosh darn Florida Gators. You can chomp all you want. Have at it. Oh my goodness, this is going to be an absolute just smoke fest for Tennessee. Under the lights, at home. It's going to be checkered Neyland, orange and white checkers across the stadium. That place, I'm telling you, I'm going to be at Tennessee, Alabama next week. It's going to be out. That place at night is going to be a freaking, I cannot even emphasize. I've been there for night games, for Tennessee, Florida night games. That place gets insane for Tennessee, Florida. So, a little bit shorter edition of all of you, but I think it's pretty simple. Let Nico cook. The defense was great last week. Bend but don't break. Let James Pierce loose. Let him get to the Graham Mertz consistently. Tennessee will smoke Florida by a final score of 45-17. And that is it for this week's edition of The Ball View.
Football time in Tennessee.
I'm telling you, I cannot wait for tomorrow night. It's going to be insane. All right. So before we get out of here, and again, a little bit of a shorter episode of Carving Up Live. It is not live tonight, but I did obviously want to do that. I don't like missing shows during the football season. The goal for every NFL/college football season: do not miss a show. That is what we're going to continue to not do. Hopefully, is not miss shows. Be there in front of you guys, putting out the best content possible. Again, not live, can't see the comments. Hopefully some activity down there. But did want to get straight to NFL predictions because before we get to NFL predictions, I did want to briefly say real quick, because I spent time Florida, Tennessee, but this is an unreal college football weekend, okay? So here's some of the games we got, okay? We got Red River Rivalry, Texas, Oklahoma. I got Texas big. Texas favorite 14.5. Yeah, they cover. Penn State, USC. Listen, I really like Drew Aller a lot at Penn State, so I'll go Penn State. I don't know if I'd take them plus 3.5 on the road. I'll take USC in the points, but Penn State to win it straight up in Southern California. We also got Ole Miss, LSU. I think Ole Miss the most over 18 in the country, so give me LSU in this game at home. And most importantly, Ohio State and Oregon. Now, this is as good as it gets, folks. You got number 2, Ohio State, got number 3, Oregon. Oregon was actually my national championship pick before the season started. I love their coaching staff. I thought their roster next to Ohio State was the best in college football. To me, literally the deciding factor for me is the home field advantage. If this game is played at the Horseshoe, give me the Buckeyes. But Oregon at home, West Coast night game. Oregon's kind of been waiting for that big. They had the breakthrough where they kind of got out of that little early season funk against, I think it was against Oregon State, but they are looking to absolutely just, come through and make sure they make a statement for the playoff committee against 12-team playoff. Oregon's going to get in, but to really say, okay, this is about the toughest challenge that we can possibly face at home, at least. I think Oregon gets the job done. Give me Oregon 31-27. Ducks win 31-27 over Ohio State. And there's some other fascinating games too. I mean, you got Utah, Arizona State tonight. I mean, there's South Carolina, Bama. Bama's looking to bounce back. What else we got? Cal Pitt is a solid game. Solid games in college football this weekend, but those three especially. Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, and Ole Miss. And most importantly, Ohio State and Oregon. I got the Ducks. Again, pick integrity. Ohio State's got the better team on paper, but Dan Lanning will have those guys ready to play. Now we'll get to NFL predictions. So let's go and get the background music going right now and start with our NFL predictions for Week 6. We're only a third of the way through the season. Can't believe it. Week 6 NFL predictions starting right now. We will start with another morning game in London. Terrible English accent. I will improve it next week. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who are accustomed to playing across the pond, against the Chicago Bears. So for me personally, this is a tricky game for me because these are two guys that I believed in for a very long time, in Trevor Lawrence and in Caleb Williams, both of which I've called generational talents. Caleb, starting to see it. He's gotten better every single week for the Chicago Bears, and they've got a great defense. As for Trevor Lawrence, disastrous rookie season. Don't put almost any of it on him. That was on Urban Meyer. Great second year, great third year until he got hurt. And this year, not very good until last week where he was tremendous against the Colts. Bears in this game, neutral sites, might as well be a Jaguars home game, are favored -1. I really like Chicago in this spot. Their defense has been unbelievable through the first 5 games of the year. Caleb Williams, again, bad against Tennessee, fine against the Texans, pretty good against the Colts, tremendous the last 2 games against the Rams and against the Panthers. He was unbelievable last week against Carolina. I think it's a big-time statement game. National TV, it's a standalone game, albeit it is in the morning. I like Chicago in this spot. I think they'll score a lot of points against a bad Jags defense. Give me the Bears, obviously -1 to cover 27-20 over the Jaguars. By the way, this is not to say Jacksonville's season is over. 1-5 teams have made the playoffs in the past, but y'all know I really like the Bears as that last playoff team in what's the toughest division in football, the NFC North. Every team in that division has a winning record. The Bears will continue that. They'll get to 4-2, and they'll win this game 27-20. We got a rookie quarterback making his first start in the next game. The Houston Texans taking on Drake May and the New England Patriots. So Drake May is going to make the first start of his NFL career. Again, if it were me, I don't know if I'd have given him the start against Houston, who's top 5 in virtually every defensive category that matters. Texans in this game favored -6.5. There's a lot of betting folks that are taking the Patriots in the points. I probably would too if Brissett were playing. Brissett's far from perfect. He's kind of an immobile guy. Again, sort of the last of a dying breed of purely pocket quarterbacks. But listen, Brissett's efficient. Brissett, I thought, played okay last week. Could have thrown the game-winning touchdown against the Dolphins a week ago. I would have started Brissett in this spot. Again, I get the Texans. No Nico Collins. No Joe Mixon. Houston can run the ball effectively. It seems like it doesn't matter who it is. Gumawala was good last week against the Buffalo Bills. They've still got guys like Tank Dell. They've still got Dalton Schultz. They've still got plenty of weapons on the outside. Stephon Diggs as well. I really like Houston in the spot, especially against a rookie quarterback. This might as well be week 1 for Drake May, and if history tells us anything, week 1 for rookie quarterbacks is a disaster. It's Drake May's week 1. Give me the Texans to win this game and cover the 6.5 points. 26-13, they'll double up the Patriots on the road. Houston wins 26-13 over the New England Patriots. It is now time for my very favorite segment of the week. It is called
Bettin Man.
All right, Bettin Man, I am looking long and hard at the Washington Commanders and the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is favored -7. So I'm just going to say this in the outset. This is going to be a fireworks show. There's going to be a lot of points in this game. Both pass defenses are some of the worst in the NFL. Both passing offenses have been unbelievable. Jaden Daniels leading the NFL in terms of completion percentage among rookie quarterbacks. It kind of feels like it's him and Caleb Williams. Caleb is starting to gain on Jaden. But Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams kind of in that push-pull tug-of-war right now, at least, for Rookie of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Washington's got a ton of weapons. So does Baltimore, especially as it relates to guys like Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers. A lot of points in this game. Baltimore's going to win. They're at home. Listen, we know they lost the game that they shouldn't have lost to the Vegas Raiders, blowing up a double-digit lead. I still don't know if I necessarily trust the Ravens to hold late-game leads. And Jaden Daniels will be relentless. But 7? Against the number 1, we're a month in, that's a big enough sample size. The number 1 scoring offense in the NFL against one of the worst scoring defenses in the NFL. And you're telling me I get 7 points for the Washington Commanders? If I were a bet man, I love this one. Smash Washington in the points in this game. Ravens win 34-31 in a high scoring affair, but Washington +7 to me feels like an obvious choice in this spot. Again, folks are elevating the Commanders a little too quickly to potential contender. They're too young. I can't put them there yet. Their defense isn't good enough. But 7 points feels like a home run right now. Washington +7. If I were a bet man, take them +7. But the Ravens went outright 34-31. It is now time. This is a big one, folks. For my upset of the week. 2 teams I despise passionately, but I got to pick one. Give me the Cleveland Browns over the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously plus the 9.5. Big underdog, darn near double digits. Cleveland 23, Philadelphia 21, and here's why. So listen, I get it. Deshaun Watson is, what's the word I'm looking for? Terrible. Like really terrible. Here's the good news though. Philadelphia's defense isn't very good. Vic Fangio is a past his prime defensive coordinator. Like I always say, well-coached teams coming out of the bye, watch out. Well, Philadelphia isn't well-coached. Now, it looks like they'll get A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith back this week. That's great. Philadelphia can't stop the run consistently. The Browns just need to break one big pass play over the top. And what's one thing we know about Jalen Hurts? He turns the ball over often. leads the NFL in turnovers since the start of last season. I think he'll give Cleveland a couple. See Cleveland will be set up, at or near the red zone. They'll come away with something like 10 points, be able to move the ball against a bad Eagles defense. I don't care if it's off a bye. I don't care if it's at home. Okay, Cleveland is a little bit desperate. If it's a Kevin Stefanski versus Nick Sirianni battle, give me Stefanski all day, every day. I think he'll put together a creative game plan. There was always that one game every 1 or 2 weeks that were like, how the F did that happen? This is going to be that. Browns over the Eagles in my upset of the week by a final score of 23-21. Listen, it doesn't hurt my Steelers if the Browns win. They're bad anyway. They're going to get some wins they shouldn't. Team's going to lose games they shouldn't, win games they shouldn't. Cleveland's going to win a game they shouldn't, and Philadelphia is going to continue their nosedive as a team that will miss the playoffs in the NFC like I predicted before the season. It is now time for our second game for
Bettin Man.
If I were a Bettin Man, I look at the Arizona Cardinals and the Green Bay Packers from Lambeau. Green Bay is favored -5. I love the Packers in this spot. So let's get this straight. I get everybody. There's some of the public really likes Arizona right now, coming off that big-time road win against the 49ers. Here's what you have to take into context, though. Number one, as I talked about all week, Brock Purdy's not very good playing from behind, and once the Cardinals took the lead, it was basically a wrap. Two, I get that that's a road game, but it's a road game against a team you're familiar with. Kyler Murray's beaten the 49ers in his career. He's had success against the 49ers in his career. So there's familiarity there. Divisional games, like you should take care of business there. Three, because the expectations were so low. Arizona was a 7.5-point dog, which that was one of my If I Were a Bettin Man games. A week ago, Cardinals plus 7.5. They end up winning outright. Because the expectations were so low. Oh, 5? Okay, not even a touchdown against the Packers. Maybe I might consider. No. Green Bay, it was kind of an ugly win, kind of a grinded-out type win against the Los Angeles Rams. Probably a little bit closer than folks thought it would be. But Jordan Love is starting to find his stride. I get that there's injuries. There's situations in terms of Romeo Doubs and his maturity problems. But Christian Watson could be coming back soon. Tucker Kraft, not 1 but 2 touchdowns last week. Green Bay has an established running game. The Cardinals, in many ways, struggled to stop the run. If I were a Bettin Man, I really, really like, and it's at Lambeau for crying out loud, I really like the Packers in the spot. Give me Green Bay by double digits. 31-20 over the Arizona Cardinals. Xavier McKinney, by the way, 5 picks in 5 games. Don't be shocked if he gets one in this spot. Green Bay wins 31-20 over the Arizona Cardinals. Divisional matchup, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, New Orleans Saints, and we've got another quarterback making the very first start of his career, Spencer Rattler, who holds a very bad place in my heart because he ended my Tennessee Volunteers 2022 season. I don't want to talk about it. Point is, he's making his first start in place of the injured Derek Carr. Tampa Bay is favored -3.5. Listen, could I see this being a little bit of a closer game than people think? Maybe. Spencer Rattler, very talented young kid. I get that. And Tampa Bay's defense isn't very good. But Buccaneers, extra time to prepare, 10 days of rest. It's a road game in New Orleans, but Baker Mayfield has had success. He played very well against the Saints on the road a year ago. Buccaneers weapons will be ready. Give me Tampa Bay in this spot, 28-19, -3.5. Tampa Bay wins over the Saints by a final score of 28-19. We're against the clock in terms of the recording threshold for what this will let me do. So we're going in a hurry now. We got the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. Again, another game featuring 2 divisional opponents. Again, this was almost the Bryce's Bleak bet game because Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, which one do I dislike less? Listen, Will Levis going to turn the football over. If there's ever, Tennessee is a 2.5-point favorite. If there's ever an opportunity in your life, if someone ever tries to convince you to bet on Will Levis, they're a con person. Give me the Colts in this game by a final score of 23-19. Could I see a spot? Listen, knock on wood, not wishing injury upon Anthony Richardson, but could I see a spot where maybe that injury is kind of nagging him, bothering him, and they put a Joe Flacco in who objectively has been more productive? Flacco was very good against my Steelers, was amazing, albeit against a bad defense, against the Jaguars. I could see him getting the job done. I could very much see some Joe Flacco action in this game. So give me the Colts plus the 2.5 and to win outright by a final score of 23-19 over the Tennessee Titans. To my team now, Pittsburgh Steelers, Las Vegas Raiders. The Steelers on the road are 3-point favorites against a Vegas team with Aiden O'Connell making his first start. So listen, Russell Wilson better not start. This has got to be a Justin Fields offense until proven otherwise. For all of his limitations, for all of his flaws, 8-2 total touchdown to turnover ratio. Okay, you have that. You also the fact He's got a passer rating near 100 at 98. So he's been efficient. He hasn't turned the ball over. He's played the brand that Mike Tomlin wants him to play. Okay, and he's giving you occasional big play, which Russell Wilson really can't do at this stage of his career. He's older. He's off a calf injury. Listen, I can't emphasize this enough. This is a Justin Fields game. Steele's going to run the football effectively, and again, it's Aiden O'Connell. Gardner Minshew's limited. He's better than Aiden O'Connell, in my opinion, on a consistent basis. So give me the Steelers in the spot. Low-scoring game, 20-13. I think the over-under for this game is like 38 points, or 36 points it might be. Very low. I'm going to take the under, but give me the Steelers to win this one. Get back on track after a 2-game losing streak, 20-13 over the Las Vegas Raiders. It's now time for my final edition, my final game of
Bettin Man.
If I were a betting man, it's a divisional game this time. The Los Angeles Chargers, the Denver Broncos. LA is favored in Denver, -3. I really like the Chargers in the spot, and here's why. Again, it's kind of the opposite reason I picked Philadelphia. Great team, or picked Cleveland over Philly. Great, well-coached teams off a bye. To me, an underrated Chargers roster. We talked about how talented they are in years past. This Chargers roster is way better than it gets credit for, in large part. Best run game Justin Herbert's ever had. Best offensive line, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt look to both be coming back in the spot. Denver's defense has been excellent the last 3 weeks, but I don't think they're going to be able to, in large part because their pass rush, I don't think they're going to get to Justin Herbert that often. Herbert, by the way, you have to imagine, dealing with some of the injuries he's dealt with the ankle, will be more healthy, 2 weeks removed from his most recent start. I really like the Chargers in this spot. Bo Nix and the Broncos have been and will continue to be better than most expected, as I thought they would be. But if I were a betting man, give me the Chargers, -3 to win this game by a final score of 24-20 over the division rival Denver Broncos. Cannot wait to watch this one. Not just that one, but the one I'm about to mention. So I said last week that Cowboys-Steelers was the carving it up bowl, right? It's my favorite quarterback, Dak Prescott, my favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. If that was the carving it up bowl, this next game should be the carving it up conference championship game. My favorite quarterback, Dak Prescott, against my favorite adopted team, the Detroit Lions. So Detroit in Dallas. This is interesting. Favored -3. So again, well-coached team coming off of a bye. Detroit has a miles better roster, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, than Dallas. It doesn't look like Micah Parsons is going to be back. DeMarcus Lawrence isn't going to be coming back for some time now. Dallas's offensive line struggled, particularly in the interior of their O-line. On the tackles they struggled. Interior, they were fine. To beat up offensive line, inexperienced offensive line. Dak in his career has been great. We could show you the numbers against Jared Goff-led teams. If you look at anytime they faced head-to-head, both guys had 3 wins, but Dak has been the significantly better player. The difference is, in almost all of those games, Goff has had the significantly better roster. Dallas is undefeated on the road, winless at home. Go figure. I will take the Cowboys and the points. I'm not betting against a Detroit Lions team that has when there's that much of a talent gap and frankly that much of a coach gap. After the way they lost last year in Dallas, the controversial call, give me the Lions in the spot. High-scoring game, 28-26 over the Cowboys. I'll take Dallas at home. Listen, Dak Prescott is a 3-point dog at home. Definitely take the Cowboys and the points, but give me the Lions, just the better team. They're going to score a ton of points against a middling Cowboys defense and a beat-up Cowboys defense. They'll win this game by a final score of 28-26. Another divisional matchup, the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. Atlanta, a 6-point road favorite. Again, a lot of folks are taking Carolina in the spot as a home dog. Andy Dalton has been fine. He's been productive in spurts. Atlanta, actually, again, they're not coming off a bye, but they're coming off a mini bye. 10 days rest. Kirk Cousins throw for 500 yards. This Carolina Panthers defense has gotten absolutely shredded all season long by basically everybody but the Raiders. And the Raiders aren't very good, especially in the opposite side of the ball. I think Kirk Cousins will have his way. Drake London, I can see Drake London catching a couple touchdowns. And please, and my sister is a big fan of the Outer Banks show. I saw Bijan Robinson made a cameo in it. Can I see more of Bijan Robinson, getting carries? Can they give the man the football more than I've seen him on streaming service shows? Like, come on. Give me the Atlanta Falcons in the spot. They drop a 30-piece on their division rival, the Panthers. 30-17. Atlanta wins 30-17 over the Carolina Panthers. And finally, and I don't like to end with this, but you got to put it up there. It's time for Bryson's Bleak Bet. It's the one game every week that I have absolutely zero confidence in predicting. But hey, you got to predict them all. Cincinnati Bengals, New York Giants from the Meadowlands. Cincinnati, a 3.5-point favorite on the road. So I'm just going to say on the outset, I like the Giants and the points here. Here's why. So coming off a very impressive win on the road in Seattle. Again, extra time prepare. That was my upset of the week. Thank you, New York Giants. The Giants have been good to me in terms of me taking them the points. Listen, Cincinnati's 1-4. It has nothing to do with their offense. Joe Burrow's first in basically every category that matters. Touchdown passes, I think he's first in pass rating. Burrow's been great. The defense has been utterly atrocious. And going against a Brian Daboll coach team with a Daniel Jones who's quietly been actually pretty good, pretty efficient against a bad Bengals defense at home. Loud crowd in New York. It's a Sunday night football game. I'll take the Bengals, but they're not covering. Take the Giants plus 3.5. Bengals win this one outright, 24-21. If Cincinnati lose this game, their season's over. I'm a Joe Burrow believer, second best QB in the league. I picked the Bengals to win my Steelers division, the AFC North. They're done if they lose this game. They're not a playoff team, not a divisional winning team. So Cincinnati, sense of urgency, got to win. They'll do it 24-21. But the Giants at home, they've been playing good football, and Daboll's been doing his thing. Take the Giants plus 3.5, but the Bengals to win 24-21. Again, not a live show, going against the clock in terms of what this streaming app will let me do. So with that, that's all the time I have for today's show. Be sure to catch, hope everybody enjoyed it. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Monday. We're back live at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. And be sure to like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. If you have not subscribed, again, just takes a couple seconds. Hit the subscribe button down there, and boom, you're part of the Carving Up family. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. Please tell everybody you know about the show. Your friends, your family. Tell everybody you know about Carving Up Live, except for your sleeping cat. Nealon really gets fired up for Tennessee, Florida games in the past. I don't know. He knows, his namesake, Nealon Stadium, is going to be real loud on Saturday. Nealon gets very fired up for Tennessee, Florida. So Vols will get the job done, no question about it. And what's going to be a great college football weekend, Major League Baseball postseason. Again, you got a game 5 tonight, Dodgers, Padres. I'm going Padres because I picked them to win the series. I feel good about that. Better pitching staff. Again, it's LA at home, but they've lost game 5s at home in the past. So we've seen it happen. And obviously, of course, a great NFL weekend. We have a lot to talk about on Monday's show, so you're definitely not going to want to miss it. Buffalo, by the way, Buffalo and the Jets on Monday Night Football. Definitely want to stay tuned for that. Just as importantly, subscribing to Carving It Up. Be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts, via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts. You can also be sure to catch my man Patrick Brown writing fire articles for the Grid's website. Be sure to check his stuff out. Be sure to check out all of our other content creators anywhere you get your podcast, on YouTube, on the Grid Network, 8 o'clock spot every Tuesday night. That's our favorite game show on the Grid, the best game show in town as far as I'm concerned, certainly in the sports realm. So definitely stay tuned and tune in for that every Tuesday night. Great football weekend ahead. Great sports weekend ahead. I'll see you on Monday to talk about all of it. Please stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please, please, please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. Doesn't matter where you lean, right, left, center. This is an issue that impacts every single one of us as Americans on a day-to-day basis. And no matter what anybody, not even on either side of the aisle, but just in general, tries to tell you, oh, it's not a problem. Oh, there's only one solution to the problem. Both are BS. Both are not true. It's a huge problem that needs a number of nuanced solutions to solve it. And again, this is an election year. Okay, if there's anybody that shows no sense of urgency to addressing this, either vote them out or vote against them, because we've got to solve this as soon as possible to protect the beautiful people in this beautiful country. All right, I'll see y'all on Monday, back live. This is not a live show, it's a pre-recorded show, but we'll be back on Monday to talk football. See you then. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Put my head there. Yeah, peace out. I'll do better next time. Go Vols, baby. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.